Hello, language nerds. I'm Aaron from Finctum Languages, and here we are with another Friday live stream hangout. This time, I'm specifically branding this live stream as a live Q&A, a Ask Me Anything question and answer session. So I'll just wait here for a few more people to show up. But while we're waiting, anyone that's here watching, I'm interested in hearing where you are, where you're from, what time zone you're in, and what language you're learning. Right here for me, it's about 10:30 in the morning here in Wisconsin. So we'll just wait a little bit longer for a few more people to show up. Like I said, this is my live Q&A. You can ask me anything you want. While we're waiting for people to show up and start commenting, just let me know where you are, what language you're learning, what country you're from. I'm always interested to hear what time it is where you live, because I have people from all over the world. Gada Goda says, hi, how are you? Hi. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for commenting. Before we get too deep into questions, okay, here we have Sofiane from Algeria. Hello, thanks for joining. What languages do you speak in Algeria? French? Do you speak French? Or do you speak, Arabic? Or some Berber or something? I don't know. I shouldn't even throw these things out because I don't know. Hi, everyone from Brazil. We have someone from Japan learning Spanish and Chinese. Interesting. From Hong Kong. Before we get too deep into the questions, I'm just going to talk a little bit about this new project that I'm starting with Kevin Abroad and Dakota from Dakota Abroad. I think formerly from the Language Learning Lounge. We're starting a new, we're not ready to reveal too many details yet, so I don't know. I'll just tell you, we're gonna be starting a new podcast soon, and it involves this book for now. So, like I said, not gonna talk too much about that, but I'm just spoiling a little bit, teasing a little bit for you guys. All right, anyways, hi from Indiana, learning French. It's 12 a.m. here in Japan. Yes, I know that actually. 12:30, right? I just talked to Dakota. We were just on a video chat a few minutes ago with Dakota Abroad. He's in Japan, and he was like, and he said, he looked at his watch and he said, I burned 3 calories today because it's 12:03. And that was about half an hour ago. All right. Wow, a lot of people commenting. Awesome. Hi from Indiana. Hi from Sri Lanka, learning Deutsch. I don't know how to pronounce that in German as a new language, but mother language is Sinhala. Sinhala? Did I pronounce that correctly? I don't know how to say that. It's from Sri Lanka. Interesting. Hi from Grenada in the Caribbean. I'm learning Korean and Chinese. Fascinating. Hi from Indonesia. Hello, I'm from Pakistan. I'm improving my writing skills in English. Well, good. You're doing the right way. Messaging in English, that's what you need to do. Linguistics student in Glasgow. Is that in Scotland? Glasgow, Scotland? Am I correct? Someone comment and let me know if I'm just making a fool of myself. We speak Arabic and indigenous languages called Tamazight. I don't know how to pronounce that word, but that's from from Algeria. Okay. I recently found your channel and it's awesome. Love the content. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. All right. Speaking Chinese and English, studying Spanish. Nice. Speaking Chinese and English, studying Spanish from Argentina. Oh, no, that's someone else from Argentina. Yeah, Glasgow, Scotland. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that I was not making a fool of myself and just showing my terrible geography. Deutsch equals German, right? All right. Thank you for your linguistics videos. Thanks. Yeah, I really enjoyed making those linguistics 101 videos. I will still make more in the future. Yeah, I'm going to continue making more. I've been debating recently whether I want to make another semantics video to talk a little bit more about semantics, or if I want to do a pragmatics video to move along. When I got to the syntax section, it was funny because I did one video for phonetics, one video for phonology, one video for morphology, and then like 5 videos for syntax. And then I did one for semantics. So we'll see if I decide I want to delve a little bit deeper into semantics before moving on from there. I'm literally just making up this video series as I go. I didn't plan a whole lot beforehand, everything that I was going to get into. But yeah, I would really like to do a little bit of SLA on there, and maybe sociolinguistics a little bit, first language acquisition, stuff like that. Diane says, I like your t-shirt, one of my favorite cartoons when I was younger. Yeah, it's not like it was really my favorite cartoon when I was a kid, but I did enjoy Ninja Turtles. And I don't know, I think I got the shirt for free, so I'll take it. We have a linguistics student from UBC. What is that? University of British Columbia? Or I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Cool. So what do you think about making language teaching courses on your YouTube channel? Should I start doing that? Is that what you're asking? Well, actually, many of you probably don't know, my channel actually started off as language courses. Because if you go back and look at my very, very first video, it was, okay, so I was correct about University of British Columbia. All right. My very first video was an explanation of the song What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. And I explain it for people who are learning English. And like my first 10 or 15 videos were just songs, and I would explain them for people who were learning English. And then I started doing Spanish songs as well. I remember this was in the very early days of my channel in 2017, I think, early 2017. I had a whiteboard behind me, and I wrote like all the words to La Bamba, and I was like, here's what this word means. La Bamba actually is not actually a word in Spanish. Blah, 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 blah. And I literally just had a whiteboard, and I marked up things about the meaning of La Bamba. So yeah, I started off this channel just teaching languages. I soon realized that a lot of people were interested in the content that I was making, whether they were learning Spanish or English, or whether they were learning something else. So I started making my videos more general, more broad for anyone who's interested in learning any language at all. And then, I've also done Thai videos and stuff, which is only interesting to a very small percentage of my viewers. I also did, I think, 1 or 2 videos on Romanian. Now I'm learning Greek, and I'll probably do some videos on that in the near future. Oh, I just did a video about Greek last week. It wasn't specific to Greek. It was just like general language learning advice, but as it applied to my my experience learning Greek. I also, this coming Monday, I'm going to release a video of about my 30 days in Esperanto that we just recorded. I recorded a short video every day in Esperanto, and I put subtitles on there. So if you don't know anything about Esperanto, you can still watch the video. It should be interesting. Especially since, you'll be able to read the subtitles and follow along, but Esperanto is so easy. I guarantee most people will be able to listen to this video, listen to what I'm saying in the video, and read the subtitles, and just learn a bunch of Esperanto just from that. Yeah, so that is interesting, at least from the perspective of someone who is interested in languages in general. Okay, and Sofiane says, what I mean was making videos about how to teach English, for example, like TESOL or TEFL courses. Yeah, I could do that. I don't have a ton of, like for one, I don't have a whole lot of experience teaching classes, right? I was a middle school English teacher for a year. So there's other people out there who have more expertise teaching classes, teaching language classes, and who have got, there's people out there with master's degrees and stuff in language pedagogy. So I could make videos about my experiences in language class. Probably wouldn't be super interesting. I'm not the expert in that field. I could do more teaching online, like doing online language tutoring. I could do maybe videos about that and my philosophy and my strategy for that, and techniques that have worked for me in helping my students online, and also techniques that have worked for me when I am the student getting tutored online, right? Because I've done some italki classes, some that have been really bad and some that have been really good. I'm not a big fan of hiring a tutor to take you through a textbook and teaching you grammar, because in my opinion, that's just a waste of your time, waste of your money that you're paying your tutor's time. When I take a lesson with someone online, I want to speak the language with someone. And obviously in the very beginning stages, you won't be able to speak very much, but you at least want to hear the language, get exposure to the language. You don't want to spend a whole lot of time memorizing charts, memorizing, right and wrong ways to use prepositions. You want to get exposure to the language. You want to use the language. You want to learn how to use the language. You want to get into conversations. You want to get into reading and listening to native speaker material, stuff like that. So that's how I design my online tutoring. Okay. Ryan C says, I'm not learning alien language right now, but your general content on linguistics and languages is super interesting. Thanks. All right. Dylan says, can't believe that you're 28. You look pretty young. Well, I'm 30 actually. So there goes that theory. All right. What's the first thing you recommend when approaching a language with lots of conjugations? So what I did is not what I recommend, right? So obviously the first language I learned was Spanish. Second language I learned was Spanish. And Spanish has a lot of conjugations. I almost said a lot of conversations, has that too. Spanish has a lot of conjugations, okay? And if you're just going to sit down and memorize them all, it's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to take forever. And anyone who has ever taken a Spanish class probably knows this, right? And my approach to learning Spanish conjugations was go to class, listen to the teacher teach you the rules for conjugations, memorize all of them. You draw a little chart with one line down the middle and then two lines, and you have the first person, second person, third person, singular, plural, and then you have to memorize all the different parts of the chart. And it didn't work. Doesn't work. That's not a good way of memorizing. I prefer now to use more of a Pimsleur approach. Okay. And the way Pimsleur teaches conjugations is they don't start you out with a whole chart, right? They start you off with the verb, I understand. Okay. In Spanish, that's entiendo, right? In Thai, it's cauchay. Well, Thai doesn't have conjugations, so it's not a good one. I'm listening to Pimsleur Greek right now, and so I understand is Catalaveno, and you understand is Catalavenete. All right, you memorize these two words, and then you practice using those two words in conversation. And then they teach you a new word. Xero, I want. Xerete, or something like that. I'm still new to Greek. I think xerete is you know, okay? Θέλω is I want. And then you go through and you learn one or two verbs at a time, one or two conjugations at a time. And then you slowly add to that, rather than here's a chart, memorize everything in the chart, and then you'll know how to use the rule. So that way, when you're in a conversation, you can stop and think up the rule in your head and then try to apply it to the word that you want to use. And then you'll know how to conjugate the word. It doesn't work that way. It's just like I don't have to memorize all the numbers all at once. I memorize like several numbers at a time. I don't memorize all the days of the week all at once or all the months all at once. I learn them little by little, and then I start to use them. All right. And then when something comes up and I need to start using the word Thursday more often, then I'll learn the word Thursday. Right. But if I'm talking about, if I'm talking to my Thai tutor about our Wednesday volleyball games, then I'll learn the word Wednesday and I'll start using that one. Okay. I don't sit down and memorize all of the days of the week all at once. You can do that and it's not wrong, but it's just easier for me to focus on one or two things at once. Okay. You are an author, a tutor, can play many instruments, and you know multiple languages. How are you so smart? I enjoy learning things. That's my hobby. I like it's fun for me to learn a new skill, especially strange skills like learning Esperanto or Tokipona. You might think that's weird, and I don't care. Also learning some of these strange instruments that I know. I don't think I have any up here. Like the strum stick, or the stick dulcimer. By the way, I'll share this link. I think I mentioned this a long time ago on my channel, and I never really followed through with it. I'm going to start making new videos on this old channel that I have. I'm going to do Fingtim by morning. No, we'll do Fingtim. Oh, I know what it is. There we go. Yeah, I just made this channel. This is actually the first channel I ever made, and I made it a long time ago. I was like, actually, believe it or not, I was one of the first YouTubers ever. I started in 2006 when YouTube was brand new. So there's a link to this video that I made. I'm just going to start randomly making songs on the drumstick because I love this instrument. So there's the link to it. And I just recently did another one. So if you like weird instruments, check out my channel. There's 2 videos that I just left in the comments. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy weird things. I like having weird skills. I'm like Napoleon Dynamite, right? All right. Hi, I'm Cheyenne. Okay, this is Shaimeh from Morocco. I'm learning English and I can speak French, and I love watching your videos. If you can make a video to work on linguistics. Yeah, I don't know if how much you're aware. I have a video series that I'm calling Linguistics 101, and there's about, I don't know, 8 or 9 videos in that series that explains some basic linguistics. Hopefully you'll find interesting. Grade 1 GES says, I like pooping. That's good to know. All right. What words are most important? Well, there's no words that I can tell you that are most important. I think, so I had a conversation with Steve Kaufman a month or 2 ago, and I was just interviewing him about what he does. And he says, one of the first things you should learn is lots of verbs. Okay. And I can see the points to that because verbs are going to be the action of your sentence, right? You're going to need lots of nouns as well. But in the early stages, when you can barely say anything, you'll probably get a little bit more, you'll get a little bit more mileage out of having lots of verbs. And obviously you want to keep increasing verbs, nouns, pronouns, preposition. Well, you can't increase your pronouns too much. But you want to, prepositions are a big one. Learning all the nuances of prepositions. You'll learn those down the line though. Adjectives and adverbs you'll want to learn. I'd say the first thing is get lots of verbs and then start to focus on lots of nouns. Yeah. But of course, don't just do one or the other, right? Like you don't want to know 300 verbs and no nouns. You want to learn like, maybe 5, 10, 15 verbs and then, and then a few nouns and then work your way up from there. It's not an exact science, so I can't really give you numbers. But that's the most general advice I can give. All right. I know you speak Esperanto. Is it really similar to Spanish? Does it sound similar? What's the history behind it? Yeah, that's a common misconception because Esperanto and Espanol look similar, but they're not connected in any way. They have similarities in the sense that Spanish comes from Latin, and L.L. Zamenhof based a lot of his constructed language off of Latin. If you don't know, Esperanto is a constructed language. It was invented by one guy like 200 years ago, not quite 200, but in the 1800s. And now many people speak it, millions of people. It's hard to judge how many people, but there's a lot of people who speak Esperanto, and there's probably several thousand native speakers. That's hard to get an exact number on too, but I've heard estimates from like 1,000 to 3,000 native speakers of Esperanto, this language that a guy just made up. And now there's native speakers, and there has been native speakers since the 1800s. It's really interesting. I would recommend anyone look into it, especially if you're interested in languages, because Esperanto is by far the easiest language I've ever learned, other than maybe Tokipona, but that's a strange exception. As far as languages that you can really converse in well and like have deep conversations in, Esperanto is definitely the easiest one. The easiest language I am aware of. Will you pretend to learn Portuguese someday? I hope I never pretend to learn a language, but I wouldn't be opposed to learning Portuguese. People ask me that a lot. Maybe I should make a FAQ. That would definitely be one of the main questions I get. If I had an FAQ. Are you going to learn my language? I don't have any intentions right now of learning Portuguese, but it's not out of the question. I like learning languages, and Portuguese is one of the main languages in the Americas. It's the most widely spoken language in South America. So it's definitely not out of the question that I will learn Portuguese someday. I already have a good head start by knowing Spanish and French. Something in Arabic, I believe. I don't know how to say your name. I love your channel. Would you ever consider learning Arabic or Arabic linguistics? Love from Palestine. Yeah, same thing. I have no intention right now of learning Arabic, but it's certainly not out of the question. It's definitely one of the most widely spoken languages in the world. And from that point of view, it's interesting to me. I've been learning Spanish for 2.5 years, and I still don't master all the conjugations. It's not a big issue. Start with the highly used ones like the present simple, etc. Yeah. And like, honestly, one of the big things that people are afraid of, at least English speakers, that we don't understand about Spanish is how to use the subjunctive. Like, that's the trickiest thing. That's the last thing they teach you in Spanish class. And the subjunctive, like, it's not that hard once you get it. Once you start to realize situations that you use it in. But if you never use the subjunctive, people will most likely still understand what you mean. And I like to prioritize being able to communicate over speaking with a quote unquote grammatically correct grammar. Like according to the Academia Real or whatever it is. So don't worry too much about it. You want to always be improving. So like, yeah, you want to use the subjunctive in correct situations where you should use the subjunctive and use the indicative in those cases. But especially early on, don't fret too much about conjugations. It'll start to come with time, especially if you get a lot of exposure. Read books, listen to TV shows, listen to podcasts, have conversations with native speakers. You'll start to get the hang of it. Can you say something about your favorite books? Yeah, I talk about my favorite books quite a bit. As far as like language learning, one of my favorite linguistics books. It's not even really a linguistics book. It's a book about conlanging, and it's called The Art of Language Invention. If you guys have watched my channel for a while, you're probably sick of hearing me talk about this, but it's just a fun book. It's by David Peterson, and he talks about all of the languages, like all of the linguistics that he considers when he's creating languages like Dothraki or High Valyrian for the Game of Thrones series. Which, if you're not aware, Dothraki and High Valyrian are both fully formed languages that you can speak and learn, and you can even learn them on Duolingo. And so he talks in his book about how he made these languages seem like real languages. Mi lernis iom Esperanton. Bone farita. Joshua Meyer. Okay. What do you think about benefits of Italian language? It's one of the most beautiful languages in the world, but IDK, what benefits has Italian? Well, the benefit would be that you can talk to Italians in their language. I don't know. It's up to you. What do you think the benefit is? I don't see very much benefit in learning Italian, which is why I'm not learning it. Right? But if you have Italian ancestry, and maybe that's meaningful to you, there's your benefit. If you're going to go on a trip to Italy, there's some clear benefits, right? I'm not going to tell you why you should or shouldn't learn a language. I don't really care if people choose to learn no language. That's a controversial thing for me to say in the language learning community, but for some people, it's just not worth their time, and I think that's okay. I would like it if more people started learning languages, because I think it's really enjoyable, and I think traveling is really enjoyable, but I don't really care too much if people say it's not worth it for me, because languages take a lot of time and effort. And for some people, it might not, the benefits might not outweigh the cost. All right. Shaime says, yes, I have watched them all. I hope you make more videos. That will be great. Yeah, I'm going to continually be making videos. So, yeah, just stay tuned for that. Subscribe and click the little bell icon. For those who don't know, the bell icon that you click next to the subscribe button, that allows you to get notifications when I release a new video. So yes, there will definitely be more linguistics videos coming steadily. All right. Are you at B2 in French? And if so, do you have any tips? I don't know what level I'm at. I've never taken any test for any language to see what I've taken tests, but not like a fluency level test or like the SURFL European framework. I don't care that much. I can tell you my French is a little rusty because I don't use it very much right now. I'll probably start learning. I'll start picking up my learning, and I'll probably start reading on Link again and listening to more music and stuff. And I'll get back into the swing of it as I start moving into next year, because I'm hoping to move to Quebec. I have been doing a little bit of French, and I'm just going to tease this book again, the project that I'm working on with Kevin Abroad, who is a native French speaker, and Dakota from Dakota Abroad. Again, I'm not going to share too many details about that, but there will be a new podcast coming out soon, which we can't talk about too much yet, but we'll release more details slowly, probably within the next week or so. Yeah, so I've been practicing a little bit of French through that. And, I'm definitely conversational. I can hold a conversation in French. People argue on the definition of fluent. Am I fluent? Are you fluent? Like, do you have to sound like a native speaker to be fluent? To me, that's a ridiculous definition of fluency. Usually we talk about fluency as in you're able to hold the conversation with relative ease and without having to stop and think a lot, or without showing any great difficulty. And if that's your definition, probably depends on the topic. I don't know. I don't really care too much about definitions and fluent or not fluent. I care much more about just being able to have the conversations. Okay, the most important thing in learning a language. Wait, okay, how is using LINQ? I love LINQ. I've mentioned this a lot in the past. LINQ is one of my favorite websites for learning languages because it gives you lots of comprehensible inputs. It makes the inputs comprehensible. And it's entertaining, right? I'm reading things that I enjoy. So right now I'm reading The Witcher in Spanish. And it holds my attention. It doesn't feel like studying when I am reading a novel that I enjoy. And I'm just going to throw this short commercial in right now. If you're interested in LINQ or learning with LINQ, I just posted a link, an online link, a URL. I just put that into the comment section for anyone who's interested in subscribing to LINQ. You can get a 35% discount on a year-long subscription, and then I get a small commission back on that as well if you use my link. So don't do it because I asked you to, but I think LINQ is a great resource, and I've been saying that for years. And so if you want a 35% discount, then and you were already going to sign up for LINQ, then by all means do that. Okay. The most important thing in learning a language is to forget the logic of your native language. Each language is specific. Learn it how it is, and you will have a new way of saying things. Yeah, you need to like memorize new phrases and memorize new ways of phrasing things. Not just memorize them, but you need to like internalize them. And just, this is how I have to express this now. You know, I'm no longer gonna say how old are you. I'm gonna say how many years do you have, and that's just the new normal way to express this, right? Because you know, it would sound weird to say "Qué viejo estás," and maybe even a little bit insulting, right? You know, you have to form everything backwards. It's no longer I like apples, but apples are pleasing to me, right? You have to come up. You have to just be willing to accept new ways. Like, don't try to force your native language into the language that you're learning. I remember when I was learning Spanish, and I wanted to teach someone that I taught myself how to play guitar. So I said, "How do I say I taught myself to play guitar?" And the guy said, "Yo aprendí solo," which translates into "I learned alone." And I was like, no. I'm not trying to say I learned by myself. I'm trying to say I taught myself. But I was just so stuck in the English way of saying things, because in English I say I taught myself guitar. You know, and you just have to learn to let go of the way you want to say things and accept the way someone else would say it. Okay. The other thing that comes to my mind is when I wanted to ask my friend how to say one piece of gum, you know, because I wanted to request a piece of gum, or I wanted to lend someone, you know, not lend, but I wanted to give someone a piece of gum. Hey, do you want a piece of gum? So I said, well, how do you say that in Spanish? How do I say a piece of gum? And they say, un chicle, a gum. And I was like, no, I don't want to say a gum. Do you want a gum? That sounds dumb. I wanted to say, do you want a piece of gum? Turns out in Spanish, you just say a gum. That's what's normal. That's what's natural. Right? Like you could say un pedazo de chicle, but they would just say, ¿Quieres un chicle? Do you want a gum? And you just have to get comfortable with saying things the way that you wouldn't normally say it in your native language. How difficult motivation-wise in general was the Thai alphabet to learn? I learned Hangul in about 2 hours, but can't really get myself to learn other scripts. The Thai alphabet is really confusing. There's way more letters than English, and just like the way they form their letters is weird, because you don't always put your letters straight forward. Sometimes you put letters backwards, but that only applies to certain letters, and you just have to know which one it is. Sometimes you put your vowels underneath the word. Sometimes you put them above the word. Sometimes you put your vowels on opposite sides of the... It's just confusing. So it was really hard motivation-wise. I spent a lot more time learning to speak Thai than learning to write it. But I am now starting to focus a little bit more on reading with my Thai tutor. I still do Thai lessons once a week because I don't want to lose my Thai. I'm just not focusing on that nearly as much. Tips on taking foreign language notes. I don't know. Don't do it. I don't do it. I never take notes. So sorry, I don't have any tips. Yeah, don't have a whole lot to tell you. Allô de Montréal, j'ai finalement la chance de te rejoindre pendant ta session Q et A. I don't know if I said that right. Q et A. Is that how you say Q in French? I know Q is a bad word. Awesome. Thanks for joining. I am hoping to move to Montreal, actually. Oops. So I always appreciate when I have someone here from Quebec. Yeah, and I've been trying to learn the Quebecois accent as well. I've traveled to Quebec quite a few times. And I think I have a strange mixture between like a European French and a Quebecois French accent when I speak French. At least that's what Kevin abroad always tells me when I speak French to him. All right. LOL says, French would be a great language to learn, but it's not phonetic, and the people are a bit offended if you speak the language badly, while Spaniards or Italians are more relaxed. Yeah, that has never been my that's never been my experience speaking French. I've definitely heard this before. That's the stereotype of French people, right? When you talk about learning French, you read the Itchy Feet comics or whatever. The stereotype of French is that they don't want you to mess up their language, and they get upset if you make mistakes. I never experienced that, at least not to my face. Maybe they were thinking it on the inside, but I've never experienced that. Il faut que tu rendes une visite à Montréal bientôt pour améliorer ton français. Yeah, I love Quebec. I definitely want to go back. I've been there quite a few times already. And I don't get tired of it. Okay, do you have a target number of known words on Link? For me, I'm planning to get 40,000 Spanish by the end of the summer. I'm currently on 31,000. No, I don't have any. I don't have any goals for that. It's a good idea to set goals. It'll help you stick more regularly to your schedules and stuff like that. But I just don't. I'm kind of lazy in that regard. Yeah, I should act. I mean, I'm not really saying you should follow my example. I probably should set more concrete goals. They say the best way to reach your goals is to set down. They say if you write down your goals, you're like twice as likely to achieve them. And then if you write down the steps you're going to follow to achieve your goals, then you're like 5 times more likely to achieve them or something. I don't know. I just made up those numbers, but something crazy like that. And who knows if this is realistic? I don't know how you would measure that, but it's worth trying. I mean, it can't hurt to write down your goals and to stick to them. I think that's admirable and good. And now that I think about it, I probably should start doing that as well. So thanks for that suggestion. Actually, I appreciate that. Here's the thing. A lot of what I've learned about language learning, I've actually learned from my viewers. Pimsleur is one of my favorite methods for learning Spanish or for learning any language, I should say. And I actually got that idea from one of my students who I was teaching. And he said, hey, I got these Pimsleur CDs from the library and I've been listening to them. Do you think that's a great idea? And I said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to try it too. And then I did. And I've been using Pimsleur ever since. So I owe a lot of gratitude to this guy who made that suggestion. And he was just one of my students. I learned from you guys just as well, you know. Okay, hello, Aaron. It's nice to converse with you. I have a question. Between Minna, I don't know any of that, no Bingo or Genki 1 and 2, which textbook will be more suitable for beginner of the Japanese language? Thanks. I have no answer because I don't speak Japanese and I've never heard of any of those things, so I apologize. You should ask Dakota Abroad or Matt versus Japan or Kevin abroad. Those are the first ones that come to my mind. Or John Siebold. They might be able to help you more with answers. I don't speak Japanese. Tips on flashcards then. Flashcards can be a help. Don't think that flashcards are just going to take you all the way to fluency, right? All that's going to teach you is words. And it's not even necessarily the most effective way of teaching you words. I use flashcards. I use Memrise. Right now, I'm using flashcards on Link. I use their spaced repetition system. It's a help as long as you're encountering those words outside of your flashcards in addition to the flashcards. And one of the big things that I do when I'm trying to learn new words with flashcards, and this is maybe one of the most important, I should make a whole video about this, maybe, now that I think about it. Use flashcards that teach you single words, and then use flashcards that teach you those words in a sentence, okay, or in a phrase. Because you don't just want to know you don't want to know what the word means as much as you want to know how to use the word, okay? Especially if it's things like prepositions. Right now, I'm doing Greek, and I have like 19 flashcards of words that are just translated to in, or at, or to. Like all these little prepositions, they really don't mean anything out of context, and you can't always apply a direct translation to them. So it's kind of a waste of time to just learn these words singly. Look up phrases, or if you're using Link, then make a link not just of the word, but make a link of the whole phrase. That will help. Then you're going to understand how the word fits into a sentence a lot better than if you're just memorizing the word by itself. Okay. Hello, Aaron. Can you say German technology is the greatest in the world in German? Thanks. Answer. No, I cannot. All right. Wait, I thought you only knew Spanish. Yeah, you're the second person to say that to me recently. I don't only know Spanish. I know English, Spanish, French, Esperanto. My Thai is okay, and now I'm learning Greek. And I've learned a few other languages in the past that I don't really speak anymore. So I would say I speak 5 languages, and I'm learning a 6th. You can argue about, do I really speak Thai or not? I can definitely I can have conversations in Thai. They're just really strained and difficult. I can sit there with my Thai tutor for half an hour and talk about what I did this week, or talk about my plans for next week, or what I want to do, or what I like. Okay, does that mean I'm speaking Thai? Well, yeah, technically it does. Do you think I should count that into the languages that I speak? I don't know. That's up to you. I count it because I can speak it. I don't count speaking Greek just because I really can't even have a conversation, other than the precise conversation that they teach you in Pimsleur. So, you can make that decision on your own, whether you speak a language or not. All right. No me digas que llegué tarde, porfa. Okay, no llegaste tarde. Yeah, I do these live streams pretty much every week, usually, generally speaking, around 10:30 my time or so, which now it's 11:15. So about 45 minutes ago, I started. I'll probably go for another half hour. I like to get these around an hour 15, something like that. Just get lots of people time to interact. I love interacting with my viewers, right? Like that's how I get a lot of ideas, and I get a lot of good questions, and I get a good sense of what people want to hear. And I personally gain a lot from it because people give me good suggestions, like I said. All right. Okay. I am a language learner. Yeah, I saw your accent mashup. My accent mashup. Are you talking about the one that I did with Kevin abroad when I was in Paris? We did this like weird video where it was like we would listen to someone say this sentence, and then we had to guess where they were from. It was really hard. All right. Do you think that doing 2 mini stories a day on Link for 2 languages each day would be complicated? It depends how well you know the language. If you're doing mini stories on Link, then you probably don't know the language that well. It also depends how similar the languages are. Like if you're doing it in Spanish and Portuguese or Swedish and Norwegian, you'll start to mix them up more than likely. And also 2 mini stories a day in 2 languages. So 4 mini stories a day, every day. That'll start to be a lot, but it's not like that's not unreasonable to try to do if you're going to dedicate, an hour a day to learning. I tend to do 1 mini story a day, and not even every day, because I like to go back and go over my old mini stories to get extra exposure to them. I'm a big fan of doubling up and going over old content that you've already gone through in the early stages, right? Like I don't go through and read Juego de Tronos. I'm not going to read that twice, right? That's just something I read. You read that stuff mostly for enjoyment. Once I finish reading The Witcher, Once I finish reading The Witcher in Spanish, I'm not going to read it again. But my Spanish is good enough that I don't really need to. My Greek is not good enough, and so I'll read the same episode 2-3 times. Read the same mini story 2-3 times. With my students, when I'm teaching my students Spanish, I have a few YouTube series, like Extra in Spanish is an excellent series. It's like watching Friends, but in Spanish, and it's designed for language learners, for people who are learning Spanish. Okay, so it's very easy to understand, and I recommend people go back and watch it 2, 3, 4 times in a week. You'll really start to memorize their mannerisms and the way that they speak. If you're in the early stages of learning language. And when I was learning French, I watched that same series, Extra in French. And I swear to you, I watched the first episode every single day for a month. And I watched the second episode a lot as well. You really start to internalize a lot of the things that they're saying and their manner of saying them. Okay. Thanks for the information. Yes, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for. Okay. Working on my Quebecois accent too at the moment. Would love to exchange notes later offline, working on a sociolinguistics study of Quebecois. Yeah, you can email me, finktemlanguages@gmail.com. finktem.languages@gmail.com. Okay, for example, Spanish and French, 2 mini stories a day for each of them. When I learned French, I was already fluent in Spanish. And so picking up French became very easy, and it really didn't hurt my Spanish that much. Learning them at the same time, I don't know if that would be difficult. One thing that I can recommend for you is to pick up this book that I don't know where I have it right now. It was a very useful book for me. Here it is. This was a very useful book for me. It's called Learning French from Spanish and Spanish from French. And it goes through and makes a lot of comparisons between French and Spanish. And it delineates how they're similar and how they're different. So if you like grammar and you like reading up on that kind of stuff, if this is interesting to you, that could be useful. Mini stories are going to be really helpful too. Just reading in French, then reading in Spanish, that'll help. I don't know if they'll be too similar for you to make the distinction. It's hard for me to say. Fortunately, among the Romance languages, French and Spanish are not super similar. It's not like French and Italian, like Spanish and Italian or Portuguese and Italian. French is kind of, in my opinion, French is a little bit more different other than Romanian. French is kind of the slightly more distinct one. What jobs can you get as a linguist besides just teaching? This is another question I should put down in my FAQ. There's not a whole lot you can get as just a linguist, right? There's no job that's just called linguist. So most linguistics jobs, you're going to need at least probably a master's degree, I assume, or a PhD. Linguistics is used in a lot of stuff, though. You ever speak to Siri on your phone and Siri understands the words that you said? That's because some linguist had to do research on the sound waves that you're producing and how a computer can interpret those sound waves and make meaning and translate them into words that it can do a Google search for. There's a lot that goes into pedagogy, like how we learn languages and how children learn languages, language disabilities. People study Broca's area and Wernicke's area, and like what happens if those areas of your brain get damaged. How does that affect your speech? That kind of thing. There's a lot of research to be done in linguistics. And then there's a lot of applications for that research in real life. Okay. Are there languages you cannot speak but can read? Portuguese I can read pretty well. Fairly well. But I cannot really speak. I can say, eu quiero aprender falar português. That's about the extent of it. And bom dia. How do you go about tutoring beginners in Spanish? I have a few different methods. One is I always recommend a TV show. And there are TV shows that you can watch for free on YouTube. And I have my students watch the TV show 2-3 times and then write down words or phrases or like grammar that they don't really understand. And then we talk about it. And hopefully we talk about it in Spanish, ideally. But we'll discuss what's going on in this TV show. And then I'll have them take what they didn't understand in the TV show, put it into Memrise, the app Memrise, then memorize those words, phrases, or grammatical constructions. And then after they've memorized it, go back and watch the TV show again so that they're getting more exposure to it. And then that also gives us something to discuss when we're doing our lessons, because one of the most important things you can do is just have a conversation with someone. And when we're both watching the same TV show, we have something to talk about. The other thing that I often do is take people through this book, Language Hacking Spanish. And it just starts off not teaching you grammar or very, very limited grammar, but just teaching you the bare minimum that you need to start having a conversation and the things that you need to memorize for yourself before you can start having a conversation. And it goes straight into that, straight into talking. And that's really useful because what I want to do with my students is talk with them. So that's what I do in my Spanish lessons. By the way, if you're interested in Spanish lessons, let me leave you the link here. Spanish or English or French or something. I'll pull up the link to this really quick. So I have a website that it's like a cheap Google website that I made myself, but it doesn't really matter because most people know me and they don't know. I don't think you really need to have a flashy website. I'll put this link in the comments too. There, that's the website that if you're interested in lessons, you can click on the link and then it'll take you to my site and then you can sign up through there. All right. Okay. Have you ever gone to a language immersion school in another country? Kind of. When I was in Thailand, I used to take immersion classes where we spoke only Thai. That was really interesting, by the way, because I spoke very little Thai when I first went there. I was like maybe an A1, maybe close to A2, something like that. Probably A1, honestly. And I went there and I was able to hold whole conversations, and I would take classes for like 4 hours a day. My first, maybe 3 hours a day when I first got to Thailand. And yeah, I would have, and I had one-on-one classes with a Thai teacher, and all in Thai, like almost entirely in Thai. We would maybe use one English word every 20 minutes, just when I couldn't understand something. We would throw in one or two English words, but at least probably more than 99% Thai. Hi, Peggy. Thanks for joining. Okay, so ¿puedes entender español? Sí. Okay, do children's books help you learn a language? I think so. I think they can be useful. That's why I wrote a book. Mostly, it looks like a children's book. It's actually designed for adults, but it can be used for children too. I mean, you would be forgiven for thinking that this book was designed for children, right? It looks like a children's book, and it is. I mean, it's like a fairy tale, but it's not designed for children. It's designed for people who are learning a foreign language, right? This one is English. It also exists in Spanish, French, Thai, and Tokipona. And if you're interested in that, it just like my theory is you do intensive reading. You read the same thing a lot, right? And you go through, hopefully you're doing it with a tutor or something, but if not, then there's also like grammatical explanations, or not grammatical, like the vocabulary words in the back. Like there's little words and phrases that you can use to teach yourself. There's questions, not necessarily comprehension questions, but questions written in the language that you're trying to learn, just to get you practice at asking questions and answering questions. And it's designed to take you up through the levels. So it has this story at the beginning, and then, you know, it's very basic. And then it takes you up to level 2, intermediate. And, you know, now you're reading the same story again, but in a more advanced, just a more advanced level. And then it takes you up through level 3. And then level 3 is even more advanced. And you see how like underline words there that you might have a difficulty, and then they're in the back. So if you're interested in that, you can find the links to my books in the description of this video below. They're actually in the description of every video I make now because I'm advertising my books. I actually lost a lot of money. Like it cost a lot of money to get them translated, and because I wanted professional translators to do it. I could have done it myself, but I don't trust my own self for translating. I wanted professionals to do it, and I also had to pay the illustrator and stuff like that, pay for printing costs and things. So I lost more money than I made, but that's okay. I think eventually I'll probably make back money, or at least I'll break even. And if I break even on those books, then it was a win for me because, you know, it was fun and I enjoyed doing it, and hopefully it helps a lot of people learn their languages. So let's see. Do children's books help you learn a language? Yeah, so that's my theory. But on top of that, like, so this is a book designed to teach you languages. Here's a children's book that I bought in Spanish. Un pez, dos peces, pez rojo, pez azul. This is not designed to teach you languages, and it can be useful, but it's designed for native speakers, right? And they're going to use phrases and stuff that are just not going to be super useful to you up front. It's not designed for you. It's designed for someone else. This book is designed for someone who is learning a language. And again, I'm not just trying to promote my own book. There's lots of books that are designed for language learners, graded readers. You can just do a Google search for graded reader in whatever language you're going to learn, and that should do just fine. And I'm not knocking these books because, like, obviously I bought this book in Spanish. You just don't get your hopes up too high for that. That is a method that I've used, is reading children's books. And it's not terrible, but it's not great either. At B2 French, you should be able to understand movies and native speakers. I have trouble with listening comprehension. That is why I asked for tips. Yeah, you know, I find it easier to have a conversation with someone than to listen to a movie. When I listen to movies, even in languages that I'm fluent in, I don't always understand what they're saying. or listening to podcasts. It takes time and it takes a lot of listening. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of exposure. Okay, what do you think about Finnish? Don't really know anything about Finnish. I just know there's lots of dots above their letters. Can't say too much about it. What do you think, or do you think we have a self-serving bias when it comes to measuring our fluency in a target language? I find that some of us tend to overestimate our language fluency. That's very true. Some people overestimate their fluency, and some people underestimate their fluency. I find that people who are most confident speaking their target language, even if they speak it poorly, learn faster. If you're willing to throw yourself into conversations because you're overconfident, that means you're getting practice and you will become better. That's just the way things work. How can I find motivation to study a foreign language even though I have almost no contact with foreigners? I want to be a linguist. First of all, good news. Wanting to be a linguist has absolutely nothing to do with learning foreign languages. So if you want to be a linguist, don't worry about it. I still recommend learning languages, but that's not required for becoming a linguist. If you have no contact with foreigners, well, you're actually wrong if you think that. Okay, there's lots of foreigners, and we have very easy contact with them online. Use HelloTalk, use italki, follow foreigners on YouTube, and whoever, follow people who speak the language that you're learning. Follow them on Twitter, follow them on Instagram, on Snapchat. You can get lots of exposure to foreign language speakers. Most of all, make friends, right? Go on HelloTalk, go on Tandem, Lingbee, go on Reddit. That's a great source of finding people that you can be in contact with. Thoughts on Moses, the other language YouTuber, the other one, Moses McCormick. Yeah, Loashu 50500 or whatever his name is. He is great. He is a bold language learner. That's what I'm always telling people. You got to be bold. You got to be confident. You don't have to. There's other ways, but I think it's probably the best way to get conversational in a language. Man, that dude is brave. He just walk right up to someone and start speaking Chinese to them, right? He doesn't care. He's not afraid of making mistakes. If you listen to him speak Spanish or, he speaks so many languages. He speaks a lot of them very poorly. He speaks like 50 languages. You think he speaks 50 languages well? No, he sucks at most of them. And if you listen to the way he speaks his languages, he's like, je veux, je ne sais pas, right? Most of his languages are really bad, but he's bold. He's not afraid of making a mistake. He goes in there and he just speaks with people, and he has a good time getting to know people. Do they get mad at him when he makes a mistake? Not usually. Sometimes they don't have a whole lot of patience, so they just don't have time to have a conversation with him. But more often than not, they're really excited to hear someone speaking their language. So I think Moses is great. Okay. He is cool and makes great content. Yes, he is. He's like A1 in 50 languages. Right. That's what I'm saying. He doesn't speak any. He speaks 1 or 2 languages well, and he speaks a butt ton of languages really poorly. I bet you are from either South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia. That's funny. You're wrong. I'm not from any of those states, and I'm not from close to any of those states. Although I did live in North Carolina briefly when I was in the Marine Corps. I'm from Wisconsin. So wrong. Not even close. Okay. Nope. I'm from the state of Alabama. Oh gosh, y'all Southern folk in here. Yo hablo mucho inglés. Good. That's what you need to do. If you're learning English, that is. Hola. Yeah. See, here's another way to use my live streams. Here's y'all guys finding each other now and speaking Spanish to each other. That's what I like to see. Get each other's contact information or whatever, and then there you have a language partner that you can speak with. All right. How do you go about reading classical novels in Spanish? I often find them difficult and frustrating, and it usually results in me giving up. How do you read them in a fun way? I don't read classical novels. I think I read the first chapter of Don Quixote. I didn't really. I didn't. I started reading a Jules Verne book in French, though, on Link, and Link was a big help. But no, I don't usually read classical novels in foreign languages. I find that, especially since the language 200 years ago, like if I'm already reading my second language and it's adding a little bit more difficulty to begin with, and then talking about the language that they used to speak 200 years ago or 400 years ago, that's going to be more difficult. And that's just adding unnecessary. I usually read modern stuff like Harry Potter. I'm really looking forward to the day when I can read this version of Harry Potter. Game of Thrones, something like that. Okay, how can I stay motivated during my final exams? By the way, I love your channel. It has been helping me a lot this semester. Yeah, see, that's part of the conflict. I often talk about people shouldn't worry about making mistakes. Just be bold. Don't worry if you say things wrong. Don't be embarrassed, right? And that doesn't really apply for if you're taking a language course, right? Because you just have to get right answers to get a good grade. And I think that's partially part of the problem with our language education system right now. And I'm not here to down on them because I know there's a lot of good teachers out there. And there's really no good way that I can think of measuring success in a language classroom other than measuring, did they do a good job on the test where they were showing their ability to understand grammar and vocabulary. Normally I say don't worry about speaking the language correctly. Just worry about speaking as much as possible. Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and study the grammar, though, if that's what you're being tested on, right? Study for the test that you're taking. But don't let that discourage you from actually learning to speak the language, right? Just because you're forced to learn grammar doesn't mean you shouldn't also enjoy having conversations and stuff like that. Stuff that's actually useful. Is it possible to learn a language from scratch only by myself at home? Yes, it is. It absolutely is. You'll want to speak with other people, though, right? Like you'll want to use italki or at least HelloTalk to have conversations. You'll want to follow people, listen to YouTubers and stuff in the language that you're learning. How do you like the massive input approach? I love massive input. I don't think it's great by itself. It also depends what you mean by massive input. Are you talking about like the pure immersion approach where you just throw yourself in? I don't like that. I like comprehensible input. Reading easy stuff, right? Listening to easy things that are easy to understand. When you understand the message first, then you'll get the content later. You'll get the language later. So I like that. I love input. I also do a little bit of grammar stuff like on Duolingo. Okay, easy, basic grammar stuff. You learn a little bit of grammar on Link. Okay, you're not studying grammar rules, but you acquire that grammar more naturally by seeing real phrases, native speaker phrases. Are you planning to learn any additional language soon? I'm learning Greek right now. I just started learning Greek like maybe 2 months ago, a month or so ago, something like that. And it's going well. Why did you think you would start a YouTube channel? That's because I was teaching Spanish and English classes online, and I was literally making videos for my students so that I could give them homework like, hey, watch this video that's on the topic that we're talking about. And then other people started watching my videos, and channel just kind of took off, and I have been really enjoying it ever since. Paul Walther says, sorry, what language was that Harry Potter book in? It's in Greek. This is Koine Greek or Attic Greek or something like that. I don't remember. It's an ancient Greek, and someday I hope to be able to read that. Are you planning to take a language certification exam? No, I have no plans of that. I think it's a good learning tool to help you stay motivated and push yourself to learn more. Yeah, but I don't care whether I'm in an A1 or a B1 or a B2 or whatever. I just want to speak the language. So no, I have no intention of that. Also, how do you go about learning grammar in the intermediate advanced phase? I just get lots of exposure at that point. Read novels, watch movies, listen to podcasts, have conversations on a regular basis. That's how I learn grammar. You've already learned most of the grammar you need at that point. And now it's just fine tuning and like really getting a good sense of how certain prepositions are used and stuff like that. Just get lots of exposure. I don't study grammar rules at all once I reach that level. I would really like to learn Esperanto and Spanish. Which one should I learn first? Esperanto? That's my advice. Learn Esperanto first, then learn Spanish. Learn Esperanto for like a month, 2 months. See if you like it. Then learn Spanish. Will you learn Korean? Maybe someday. I think there's a good chance I might try to learn some basic Korean within the next year or two. Specifically just for more as an interest thing than an actual useful thing. I think it would be an interesting experiment to see how much Korean I can learn in a year or so. And I'll document that on this channel. That's an actual thought that I've been having recently. All right, so these are the last 2 questions I'm going to take because I have to poop, so I'm going to leave. Do you think it's better to learn 2 languages at the same time or learn just 1 language first? I definitely think it's better to learn 1 language at a time. 2 is doable, probably. 3 is probably a mistake. But if you're asking me 1 or 2, I would say go with 1 at a time. Favorite writing system? I don't have one. I don't really care. Latin writing system, I guess. I don't have an answer to that question. I don't have a favorite. And it's not something that is really meaningful to me. To me, writing systems are much less interesting than the spoken language. What do you think is the most challenging part of learning a language? Oh, gosh. Working up the confidence to being able to speak with people. That's more difficult than actually memorizing vocabulary or anything like that. Is just working up the balls to do it, honestly. All right, I'm going to cut off the questions here. So thanks for joining. If you have more questions, you can leave them in the comment section, the comments below this video. And I will try to get back to them. And I do read all the questions and comments people leave me. So I'll try to get back to your questions as quick as possible. So thanks to those who joined and asked questions and joined in the conversation. Yeah, I know sometimes it sucks when someone joins in right at the end. I usually try to do it. I start usually about an hour before whatever time it is right now. All right, so thanks for joining. I'll see you guys later.